Hello and welcome back to Women's Football Talk, the YouTube channel that brings you all the latest news and stories from around the world of women's football. Now before we get into today's video, make sure you subscribe and click on that notification bell, as it does help this channel to continue to grow and get the women's game as big as possible. And make sure you are following us on Twitter and on Instagram for all the latest news and stories. So today in our WSL preview we look at Everton. Now last season the Toffees finished 10th and had 3 different managers throughout the season. They had Willie Kirk at the start until mid-October, then Jean-Luc Vasseur, formerly of Lyon, took over, and then Chris Roberts took over on an interim period until the end of the season. However, Chris Roberts is still there and is staying on. However, this time it is Brian Sorensen that is in charge of bringing the Toffees up the table and making them perform better than they did last season. Now it was a very tumultuous season last season for the Toffees, absolutely poor, picking up wins very rarely. Their last win of the season came back on the 12th of March against Leicester City. After that they had 3 draws and the rest were defeats. So it wasn't a good season at all for the Toffees, finishing off with 5 wins and 5 draws and 12 defeats, compared to an Everton team that we had got used to seeing being a bit more consistent in terms of their finish. Like 2020 to 21 season they finished 5th, and then going on to finish in 10th place last season saw a massive drop off in their form. However, this year they look a bit more better off and rounded, and I think this season is going to be a very interesting time for the Toffees. Now they've made some signings, very interesting ones. Katja Snoes from Bordeaux, the Dutch striker, is a very good striker and I'm excited to see how she gets in here. Katrin Weiher from FC Rosengard, obviously she's played over here before with Arsenal. And then bringing in the Holmgaard twins, Karen and Sarah Holmgaard from Turbine Potsdam. However, Sarah has been loaned back till the end of the season at Fortuna Fjordgård, and then they've brought in 4 loan players in Jess Park, Emily Ramsey, Claire Wheeler and Aggie Beaver-Jones. So some good signings made by Brian Sorensen and crew, and it definitely feels like it could be a much better season for them this season. And if we look at who I think is going to be a key player for them, it's going to be, for me, new player Katja Snoes. She comes into the league with 15 goals and 10 assists in her final season with Bordeaux, so I think she will definitely help provide the goals up front for Everton after they only scored 18 goals last season. So with her added goals and assists, it should help boost them up the table. Now obviously Katja on her own can't do it all, so you got to think the likes of Hannah Bennison, despite only being 19 years old, will definitely come more on it to herself in her 2nd season at Everton. And then you got the likes of Aurora Gali, who is already there, Nicolene Sorensen, as well as the usuals Izzy Christensen and Tony Duggan to step up for Everton this season. So there's a lot more promise, and it seems a lot more calm this year at Everton than what it was heading into last season. However, obviously nothing is guaranteed in football, as is the old saying. Brian Sorensen has brought in a few of the players that he knows. I'm expecting them to get off to a much better start this season and pick up a few more results. It's obviously going to be hard to become a more consistent team and trying to get into a top half finish or even push on for that 3rd and final Champions League spot. However, for Everton this season, their main focus has got to be just getting more consistent at the back and getting those wins, turning those losses into victories and pushing themselves up the table to be consistent, and then with a proper decent mix of being as a midfield team at the minute in time, compared to where they were last season, where they were just well off the mark in all aspects of their game. And it was a massive disappointment for them in all competitions, because their top goal scorer was Anna Anvagar with 4 goals, who they have let go after just 1 season in England. So it's going to be something that Everton really need to look out on, and in terms of getting better, because their only 2 convincing wins last season came against Reading and Birmingham City, which was match weeks 3 and 4 last season, where they won by 2 and 3 goals respectively. Every other game that they won was only by 1 goal, so it's going to be trying to find that consistency of putting a bridge in between them and not losing so many games, which I think can definitely happen. And I think the likes of Emily Ramsey coming on loan will help ease that pressure. And obviously losing Sandy McGeevy is a big blow for Everton and not something that any team wants to do, considering how good of a young keeper she is. But I do believe Emily Ramsey can do that and help out the team a lot as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Brian Sorensen does get on in this first season of his here in English football, but it's definitely one to pay attention to, because I expect Everton to fully recover and move back up to being much more involved in the midfield battle and potentially pushing on amongst the top 4 teams in the WSL. Right, like I say always, make sure you are subscribed with the post notifications turned on and that you are following us on Twitter and Instagram for all the latest news and stories, and we'll be back later with our next WSL team preview. Until then, we'll see you soon.